Thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Well, here we are. I am going to do my, I'm going to do my color purple thing. You and I shall never part.
Mikey Dada. Yay.
Never. I am so excited about having you here on Testimony Tuesday.
I'm excited too.
Yes.
I'm just sharing it so that all my friends can watch it.
I already tagged you, baby.
Yeah, so I took the tag and I shared it. So I want people to watch it. Okay, so
all right, there you go. Well, Nettie, I didn't even plan this. I'm gonna tell you, I didn't even plan it. You know, when I sit down there and I am just doing my schedules and just my calendar, and January 10th, you just said this is good, and it was so in line with what I was doing.
Yeah.
And now coming upon another healing for my soul challenge, and you are now the woman that's on Testimony Tuesday that's been with me for I don't know how long. I ain't gonna even go there. I'm gonna let you go there.
Yes.
8 years. All I'm gonna do is just bow down and give you the floor so you can talk about healing, because that's you.
Yeah, it was amazing when I got your text, because we had tried it a few times and for whatever reason it wasn't flowing at that time. But when this last text came, I'm like, it's time. You know,
Yes.
when I look at the various transitions and things that I've gone through, but then I also look at the wonderful fact of the expansion in Mighty Christian Women. And I'm looking at how it's developing in such a rich way, and how there are so many women who are diverse, who are strengthened enough to tell their stories and be connected and submit not only to God, but unto one to another. I'm like, it's actually time. And it's a beautiful thing to have started 8 years ago in this process and to still be a part. You know, 8, of course, from a spiritual connotation, they always say it's the number of new beginnings. And there have definitely been a lot of transitions and, you know, some things that are new. But the beauty of it is the foundation that was set was so solid that now I'm able to enter into those new things and manifest them and take them by force with dominion. One of the things, like, that's so awesome, because you talk all the time so much on your videos about your militancy and your desire and how you're not coming down off the wall and how fortified you are. But one of the things that I love from the standpoint of everything that we learn, while you admonished us to be the same way as far as militant and diligent, you also encouraged us to learn ourselves and who we were and be ourselves and understand. I've been thinking this week even about the various things, the different lessons that we've done. So at one point where my identification within the body of the ministry was the abdomen, and then understanding my purpose and the things that I do and how I do them. So it's like we all don't do the same things the same way, but ultimately it's for the same purpose. And when you begin to identify and understand and know who you are, whose you are, what God created you for, then you know the purpose that He's assigned you for that particular time, which is the Kairos season, but then also what to do. So for me, you know, your militants, your machete and your sword, baby, you will pull it out. I mean, fine as wine, but we'll take that sword and cut it down, chop it off if it's necessary. And for me, I'm more I sit in the corner and I observe, very detailed, and I watch so significantly and keenly. And then everything that I'm watching, I pick up and I get understanding from that. And then I'll give strategies and things for the frontline people. And not that I don't ever go on the front line, because sometimes I do, but sometimes I'm the one in the back orchestrating what needs to happen on the front line. And then once the front line has gone out and there's some wounding that takes place, then there's a healing that God has put in me from that level of almost like compassion and a nurse standpoint to help nurse back to health to go back out.
Yeah.
So to be able to understand what those things are and to be able to keenly identify that is a wonderful thing. And I learned that through all of the teachings. I learned that through, and something so awesome is that I learned that it's not always what we think it is. So even when we look at what you're talking about as far as the betrayal and the rejection and healing for my soul, and yes, it is going to have to do with some relationships and some broken, failed marriages and things like that. But one of the things that you have done for us so amazingly is that you always put it to God and to ourselves. So when I was thinking about this thing, I was thinking about how betrayal and rejection first started with us.
Yeah.
How we were deceiving ourselves. And we were rejecting ourselves, rejecting our purpose, rejecting the power that was on the inside of us, even if it was for the purpose of being willing to give all of that up to somebody else, or be depleted, or not discover what it is that we were supposed to learn. For rejection, the definition of it, you know me and my words. So it was saying to refuse to accept, consider, submit to, or take on for a purpose or use.
Yes.
And when you that and we think about rejecting what we refuse to hear, whether it's the word of God, if we're refusing to hear what it is that God says about us, who he created us to be, why he put us on this earth, if we're refusing to even seek that out and just accepting either what somebody else is telling us or only looking at it from a connotation of what feels good and what we desire and what we hope to see happen from kind of like this wish and dream standpoint when it comes to relationships, but not fully even understanding, refusing to hear. I was just thinking about this relationship I was in back 3 years ago, and you know, I'm going through all my changes. It seemed like I was crying every 2 seconds, and you would be telling me, Nettie, you got to discover yourself. You like, Nettie, you got to get in touch with you. Like, you have to be your priority. And I to make me so mad. Oh man, it used to make me so mad. I'd be heated. Like, what? Stop telling me that. But thanks be unto God who giveth us the victory, because there's nothing more beautiful than coming into the understanding of who you are.
Yes.
Like, that is the most profound thing ever. You cannot be in love and relationships without having that understanding of who you are and understanding how the rejection and the betrayal shape you. They help shape and develop, how the adversity helps shape and develop who you are. Who we really are doesn't come out until we start going through those adverse situations, making the decision to go through them, not allowing it to defeat us, not allowing it to just take us under and over, but looking at it and saying, listen, this is for my good. Why is it that I'm going through this? Even when we start connecting like the various things, cycles and patterns we find ourselves going through, why is that? Why is that connected? Where does that hit our bloodline? What strongholds are those connected to? These are all things. I mean, 8 solid years of rich, deep teaching to truly understand myself, my purpose, you know, the purpose of my role as a mother for my children, and all these things. But then what's so amazing now, going back to school, I'll be graduating next year, but what's so awesome is everything that I'm learning in school has such a richer connotation because I know who I am.
Yes.
So this is not just textbook stuff that I'm learning in school, but I'm able to apply it from a connotative standpoint because I understand who I am. And it's just like, it blows my mind. It blows my mind on a regular basis. Like, it's every day I'm just like, wow, I'm learning so much more about me than I'm ever learning in these textbooks. So like, if I get an A in class, I'm like, you don't even understand the revelation I had to go through. Now sometimes I cry on my pillow by what comes out, and I get that A after I write that paper. But it's a blessing. It's a blessing in knowing. It's a blessing in no longer being in the dark. It's a blessing in no longer just speaking rhetoric and things
Yeah.
that I feel like you're supposed to say and supposed to be. And I'm not taking nothing away from it. Woman of God and mighty Christian woman, absolutely. But what does that mean? What does that mean for you specifically?
For you
Say
specifically.
about, so what can you say to somebody, to them, that's not just the routine, not just the normal, not just the church
Yeah.
stuff that
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
people are supposed to say, but are you speaking into the
Yeah.
depths of their soul? And you can't do that if you haven't had any type of inspection of your own. Like, you can't do it.
And you know what, Nettie, you know, all what you're saying is so true. And God is a God of relationships. So
Yes,
even for, you know, one of the things that really kind of grieves me, first of all, you know how long it took for me to get on this Facebook thing, and
yes. I'm so
doing
proud of you though, because you're doing it. Do you hear
you
me?
know how long, and you know how I fought with
Listen,
that.
yes,
You
I
know
do.
how I toiled with that.
Yes, I do.
You know how Ariel and I was going like this. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying? And I was
yes.
cutting y'all up in the office like whoa, that militants was out.
Them
Militants was out.
machetes, them machetes, I
The
tell you.
machete, but that's because I'm a people person,
Yeah,
and with a relationship, you know, I was able to talk with you all, and you called me, and I was able to be there, and you were able to be there for me in
yes,
my
yes,
processes.
yes.
So, you know, and it grieves me when, you know, I reach out to women or they don't post or they don't, because I know they're going through and they're
Absolutely.
depriving themselves of that knowing who they are, because you just
Absolutely.
can't do it sitting in a room by yourself.
You
You know,
cannot. You
you
cannot.
said something about coming into knowing who you are requires submission.
Yes, it
It
does.
wasn't the fact that you was just, oh Mama D, and you carrying my bag or what. It wasn't nothing like that.
No,
You trusted the revelations
absolutely.
that was coming through me. And not only did you trust it, but when you were said, when I remember the emotional healing when I was saying, give your bed up for your daughter.
Talk about it now.
When I was, and you was like, what? You know, you was like,
Man.
but regardless of how it felt, regardless of how it sounded, you did it. And for me to see the richness of the relationship between you and your daughter.
Now that one, listen, we got to stay on this line now, because you know I be in the floor weeping just thinking about that. We won't get nothing done because we'll be in a strong worship. But yes, and I remember that, and said a few choice curse words like, I ain't giving up that hard. But to be obedient to that, and like you said, to submit, to be able to see. At first I was refusing to accept and refusing to hear because of my hurt, because of my own rejections and pains and miscommunication and misunderstanding. But it was just like, listen, I signed on for this thing, and I believe that God has connected me with the right people. So if I believe that, then I have to yield to what
Yes.
it is, the instructions that are being given. Like now she could come, man, we come lay in the same bed and watch TV and have a slumber party and just bond and pray together. And I mean, it's just been, and it was one of the things that you've said at least 3 times on this line, and that we're going to continue to say, is the process.
The process.
And not having to go through that process by yourself
Yes.
is very important. You need relationships. If you're talking about successfully going through a process for victory, for deliverance, for healing, you can't do that. I just had surgery. You know that. I just had surgery about 3 weeks ago. I didn't go in that room with the scalpel, with the anesthesia, cutting on myself, sewing it up. I had a team. It was an entire process.
Yes.
People from the prepping of the surgery,
yes,
down to the actual surgery being performed, even to the recovery afterwards. And it was so much revelation in that for me. These were caring and compassionate people who came intentionally to serve. And one of the ways I knew this surgery was about to be awesome. My surgeon was a woman, first of all. She was awesome. Little bitty old short little white lady. She was awesome, Dr. Hagan. And when I met her, I knew I was in good hands. Back in May, she gave me my little consultation and everything.
Yeah.
But when I had the actual surgery, they had to take me up to this room to get an ultrasound so that they could pin the exact place where they were going to have to cut. I had to have this mass removed out of my breast. So after that was done, I was sitting in the hallway waiting for the people from transportation to pick me back up. And she was walking down the hall, and she was like, Miss Parks, Miss Parks, this is my person right here. Come on, let me get you where you need to go. And I said, this woman, now I should have asked if she knew God, but the greatest leaders are servants.
Yes,
she
yes.
told me a powerful principle, even in that yes. She wasn't the type of person to say, oh, I'm just going to wait for the transportation people. She knew where I needed to go. She got me there. She wasn't too big to push that wheelchair, even though she was going to be cutting. She wasn't all grand and bougie and all high and mighty. I'm the surgeon. I don't do none of that. And I was like, God, you showed me something in that. And I'm like, she's a great servant.
Yes.
She's a leader because she's a great servant.
That's
so
it.
That gave me a whole nother level of peace. And I said, she's going to do me well. And when I tell you, you can't even hardly see the incision. That's just how dynamic she is. But all of that was a process.
Yes.
Even people calling afterwards and checking on me. And we just want to see how you doing. They call me like 2 or 3 days later. Are you going to the bathroom? How you doing with the meds? So, to me, it's a recipe for how life should go.
Yes.
And being in spiritual connection is no different. That's not just from a worldly or practical standpoint. That's from a spiritual standpoint as well. We are supposed to be there for one another to help go through those processes, understanding the role that we're given with each person. It made me think about when Antoinette had her surgery and we were all there for her. And I mean, she was wide open. And that was just like, she couldn't even get all those stitches and stuff. And the way she was open, if we weren't covering her, not only in prayer, but in those wraps and all of that stuff, all kind of infection and things could have gathered her body. And it's the same thing in the spirit. We cover one another.
Come on now.
We open. It's people that are torn, not even just cut. It's one thing about being cut from precision, but it's another thing about being torn, baby. Being open, being pulled, being ripped. Open from pain, from rejection, from bitterness.
You better speak it.
Hurt from, just all of those things that from our relationships with our parents that didn't go well and failed marriages and all of this stuff. And all that gets in that space when it's not covered, when it's not protected, when it's not. Oh my God. So that's our personal processes. But then you also talk so much about what we have to govern as well. And that's where that area of power comes in, that responsibility, that accountability, that being intentional. And listen, I could just cry rivers when I think about it, because it's so many things that God has allowed me to put into place. And it wasn't an easy thing. It was work.
No.
8 years was work.
That
I
was some
packing
work.
up bags and having my own place, but having to pack my bags and get in my car and come drive out to Glenwood. And it was about sacrifice. It was about servanthood.
Yes.
Like all of those things were necessary. But when I look at who I am now, when I think about the words that are coming out of my mouth, when I see my children, and we still have ways to go, but I look at how far we've come.
Yes.
That's the grace of God. When I look at Ari and Allison and Michelle and Kamari, Lord, every time I see a picture with Michelle and Kamari together, I'm almost crying in the ground. So many.
And I just talked to Gino, Darlene's oldest son, who's on his way to college, and I just prayed for him. You know what I'm saying? Because he's leaving tomorrow, and I'm like, he was 9, 10 or whatever, and now he's up and going out to college. But that's relationships.
It is. And the young men who have a level of respect, even Nicholas reaching out to you, having that level of respect, understanding the measure of authority that God has given you, even to speak into their lives and pray for them and honoring that. Listen.
It's amazing. And I want to really let people know that relationship is both ways, Nettie. You're speaking about what you have went through. But even when I was going through my process as a woman, not as Pastor D,
Right.
not as the wife, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Not as the woman, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And in Galatians 6, it talks about let them that have been taught teach what was given. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So you gave it back to me in the times that my heart had become wax cold. And
Yes.
I said, tap into that tender place.
Tender. Yes. Come
You
on,
say
tender.
tender one more
Yes,
time.
tender. Yes.
I didn't even want to hear the tuck, much less the ender. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
But you were giving back. And that's relationship. It's not about who's the pastor, who's the big
That's right.
I, who's the little I, who's the big T. It's about giving back what has been given when you know who you are.
Absolutely. And even getting built up in that, because when I first came, I was very timid. I could not have done that in the beginning because I'm like, oh, this Pastor D, like you said, caught up in all the religious jargon and, oh, she the pastor. I can't talk to her like that. Or because you were, you had this level of confidence and strength that I had not yet acquired. It was like, oh, I can't tell her something that I feel like God told me for her. But like you said, when you get to that point of developing and that confidence and understanding who you are, tenderness and love and walking in love is my birthright. I live for that. That's
yes,
who
you
I am.
do.
Even sometimes when I look on Facebook and they be like, you had 10,000 likes and it was some little video and it said you got 31,148 loves. I'm like, I'm not surprised because Nettie is lovable. Nettie love the people.
Nettie love the people. Nettie love people.
That love is my superpower. Like
yes,
that love. And even developing that love, it's not that superficial, but it's that agape.
And it all works together because healing is my superpower.
Yes, yes.
Healing is my superpower.
That's it.
You come a cat, and I don't even like cats, but if he come in my presence, he gonna experience healing.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. He's gonna experience. And then what you take the healing, what I'm loving, what I'm seeing in this season that's blessing me so tremendously is that you're talking about healing. And sometimes, like I said, because we're debunking all the religious myths, we look at the healing from like this quick little prayer, move on. But now what you're doing is that you're practically living out the healing through health. Running up mountains and talking about all of these things. So it's like healing has now stemmed into health, and it's what you've been teaching us from the very beginning. These are lifestyles. These are not one-time things. These are not these moments. Now we have the moments and they're beautiful and they're wonderful, and sometimes they're gatherings and sometimes they're things that are unexpected, but at the end of the day, then we have to take that and practically apply those things. And it has to become our life. So healing has to become our life. Qualitative relationships have to become our life. Quality time has to become our life. Encouragement has to become our life. Pulling down strongholds has to become our life. Warfare has to become our life.
Yes. And it's all a lifestyle. It's not a choosing which one.
Correct.
It all works together. And I love what you say, running up those mountains, but on the flip side of the coin, I firmly believe, and I support this based upon Psalms 139, when David said, he know my reins. He know my kidneys. So a lot of the things that we are, as women, are experiencing physically is because of lack of emotional healing. Just like emotional healing can bring you physical life.
That's right.
With lack of emotional healing can bring you physical ailments. And I don't even want to.
Yes.
I believe God preserved whatever was at that mass could not have turned into anything else.
Listen, you better know.
Could not. When you text me, I wasn't even concerned. When you text me and said, Mama D, it wasn't even an issue. Why? Because you had went through some healing processes emotionally.
That's
that was just some residue that had to come out.
Yes, God. It was just an obstruction. That's all it was.
Yes, it is. That's all it was.
Trying to block and
trying to block. That lets you know your warfare, because when some people call me and pray, I ain't got to go in all warfare-ish because you've been doing your healing. Now, if you ain't been doing your healing, I got to cast down all kind of stuff.
That's right. But I believe that the situations, like I said, they're happening. what's happening for me is that God is showing me the power of connectivity. Like I have to be able to understand, like you said, from a spiritual, but then from a practical connotation for the books that I'm going to write, to help people to understand, because we're talking in all walks of life. We got mighty Christian women, which is amazing, but we got people, we got them Schaumburg folks that ain't walking up in no church houses and not going to no conferences, that still need to understand the power of Christ, who God is, how he works in their lives, how he wants to still bring healing, how he wants to restore. So we got to be able to look at it from all of these various different perspectives and minister from that perspective based on who it is that he's assigned us to deal with at that time. So,
I'm listening to you, Nettie, as we're getting ready to wrap it up. But when you said Schaumburg, and my mind is just going back, we have been through some journeys together from in the commercial real estate. You work with me, ministry. We have been in some processes and journeys experiencing over these 8 years. But the beautiful part about the power of connectivity, you went on to the journey of what God had for you in your life. But regardless of it, our hearts have remained connected.
Absolutely.
So many people may leave a job or leave a church, and you act like they fell off the face of the earth. You see what I'm saying? You do that when you're not healed. Because healing keeps you connected. Freedom keeps you connected. No matter what you went to school and all that, it never was no bitterness and it was all celebration. When I moved to Atlanta and you celebrated me, and the distance have never made us become disconnected.
That is correct. Isn't that wonderful?
Intention. Ain't that a beautiful thing?
It is a beautiful thing. It is truly a beautiful thing. And it's something that I want to be able to share on a larger platform for people to understand it, because so many people fall out when they don't understand, misunderstandings and miscommunication, and life changes, cycles change. And if we're talking about healing and we're talking about breaking cycles and generational patterns and curses, then we have to look at that to happen in our lives overall as well. We have to look for things that are going to happen sometimes that are going to be unconventional. But like you said, can we remain intentional?
Yes.
If you're on the south and I'm in the north, because guess what? It might switch up one day. You might be back up here and I might be down south.
And even when I do come back to Chicago intentionally, I gotta go see my dad.
That's right. We gotta have that cup of coffee. We gotta hug each other's necks.
Yes.
We have to do that because it's important. Because it's been built. And like you said, what God has joined together, let no man put us under.
Yes.
That's not just for the marriage ceremony. That's for anything that God has connected and put together and joined, and you know it, and you stand firm with that.
You stand firm with that. Well, Nettie, I thank you. You're going to have to come back again because it's so much, and I can't wait to see you on that platform speaking at Dunamis Women Conference. That's coming up, because I promise you, this is what it's about. I don't need to go outside the circle. I don't need to go get no notoriety of a name to bring something when the healing is what's going to illuminate.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the healing.
I'm excited about it. And
I'm excited
about all of the new women that are coming and going to be a part. And I'm just very excited. So yeah, I'm truly looking forward to it. Truly looking forward to it.
Thank you for being a part of my life.
Oh, thank you for being a part.
That was out of that tenderness.
Oh, come on, I'm so proud of you. Thank you for letting me sit on that recliner in Palatine all them days when I was half losing my mind and crying and paranoid and all this stuff, and just being patient. You were patient. Took every call. Let me tell y'all something, and I know we about to go, but that's one of the things about Pastor D. And again, about relationships. What you did for me is that it built trust in me, that I could trust somebody, and it helped build my confidence, because the first thing going through your mind, all them no-aimers, oh, I'm crazy, they don't want to be bothered with me. And granted, I was. But you still took them calls, you still took them. And if you was busy, listen, I'm busy taking care of something, but I don't call you back. You always call back. And it built something in me. It let me know my value. It let me know that I was worth something to someone. And just starting there in that very beginning has gotten me to the point where I am today.
And that's how you get the evidence of your faith. The Bible says, I will not forget your labors of love. You so minister to the saints, not to the sinners, but to the saints.
That's
and
right.
I thank you for submitting to that and what God has given me, which is healing as a lifestyle for his daughters, that you can now see the evidence. I have another coaching client and doing the same thing. I tell her, call me. She'll call me, Pastor D, and I pick up every time. But she's seeing the evidence.
Yes.
She's seeing the evidence.
Absolutely.
I can't say everybody do that. You can't get the outcomes without going through the instructions and following them and submitting to the call that's on the life.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? And so I can't just labor with you and you want to just do anything you want to do. It's a relationship.
It's a relationship.
You want to do anything, you might get another part of Pastor D in. When you call me and you're, that's that militance.
That's right. That's right. And the trust has to be there. So if I'm trusting you because you're picking up my calls, I have to entrust the instructions that are being given, are God ordained, and I have to follow through, even when I don't understand or when it seemingly doesn't make sense. But then it's working out something greater on the inside of me.
Yes, it sure is. Well, I love you, darling. Thank you for your time.
Thank you as well. Mwah.
Yes.
It's a blessing. Everybody, you guys share this, continue to share the 10-day Healing for My Soul challenge. Sign up for it. It's going to change your life. You need to be a part of it. You need to be a part of it.
And if you can't share for Mighty Christian Women, go to my Dunamis D page, go to Lynetta Parks page and share it, because I'm on a quest. And it's a movement of healing in the land.
Absolutely.
All right, baby love.
I love you. Thank you so much.
All right, have a good one, babe.
You too. All
right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.